Welcome to episode 6 of Talking Prisoner Presents. We have a special guest today. It's our first international guest all the way over in New York. It's 8:30 at night over there at the moment. Our guest has a career spanning over 30 years and has appeared in many well-known TV shows and movies, including The Equalizer, Lean on Me, which is a massive favorite movie of mine, As the World Turns, New York Undercover, The Practice, Law and Order, Chicago Hope, Judging Amy, Empire, 24, NYPD Blue, 187, Blue Bloods, Bull, Law and Order, Special Victims Unit, Orange is the New Black, The Blacklist, and there's so many more. Welcome to Talking Prisoner Presents, Karina Arroyave. It's such an honor to have you here today.
It's an honor to be here. You guys are so sweet. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and welcome, Ken.
Hello there.
Now, before we start, how are things in New York?
Oh, well, you know, it's Omicron-wise, much better.
Good.
So I'm so grateful. I heard it's that where you guys are, that it's kind of everywhere. Is that the case in Melbourne? Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, it'll die down just like it did here. You guys might just be a little bit, behind us in terms of when it hit. But Omicron wise, it's good. We're getting glimpses of spring, which makes me so happy. Of course, we're affected by everything going on in the world, and we're trying to, stay sane like the rest of the world. But New York we're coming back.
All restrictions gone? Like everything's...
most people are still wearing masks.
Yeah.
I think the actual restrictions have been eased up, but it's up to each individual business. And I think that most people just feel comfortable wearing a mask anyway.
Yeah. Similar.
Yeah. Similar there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, you live in one of the most amazing places in the world. I just have to ask, what's it like living in New York?
I'll tell you this. I don't see myself ever leaving. I've been here since I was a year old. Oh, really? Yeah, I came here when I was 1. Wow. I was still practically a baby, and I lived in El Salvador when I was 8 years old for a year, and I've spent some time in LA, but I love it here so much. It is very like intense and hustle bustle, and but I think that New York gets a real bad rap. I think that people think that you come here and you get mugged and somebody insults you and spits in your face. No, it's not like that, right? So it's exciting being here. It's because there's so much culture and there's so many different types of people, and yeah, so I love it. I can't see myself leaving.
Favorite place to eat there? I mean, I've seen some amazing restaurants on.
Yes, wonderful. Gosh, there's too many to even, oh my God, to name. And thank God they're all coming back now. Some of them unfortunately have permanently closed, but yeah, lots of great restaurants.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about your childhood and can you share some memories?
Oh, well, see, this is the part I was nervous about, but I'm very grateful to you guys because I have never been asked personal, like more things that weren't just strictly work related. So when, and I saw a few clips of your videos, your older interviews.
Oh, okay.
What?
You watched them?
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, okay, so this is a whole other feel, which is welcoming and but also nerve-wracking. You know what I mean? Well, I guess I'll share some acting related memories. I remember, I had like my first little agent when I was like 10, and his name was Mr. Blue, and he always wore a suit. He never got me work, but I remember that. I remember my mom being very encouraging in terms of my acting. So I remember that very well. I could go on and on and on. So maybe I'll just stop there for now.
Okay. And what was school like for you? Did you enjoy school?
I loved school. I lived for school. I was, I guess you'd call that a nerd. I don't know, but I don't like, I think about the children now who have to do their school over Zoom or they can't go to school.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would have survived because that was the highlight of my life was school. And so I just loved it. I loved everything about it. I loved learning. I loved being there. I loved reading. I loved being with my friends. And I'm one of those odd children that just really always loved school. Yeah. Until high school. And then I went to through my rebellious phase. And I went through a real rebellious phase, and school and I did not mix, not too much, but as a child, yes, I loved it.
Fantastic. What was one of your first jobs out of school?
My best one?
What was one of your first jobs out of school? What did you jump straight into?
Oh, you mean,
Like
just money jobs, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah. My first job was it Wendy's? It was Wendy's. Yep. The burger. Yeah. I really liked that job. I really made the most of it. I would go out and hand out, the flyers, and I'd make a very big deal of it. Like, hey, get your free fries and get your, and I was like, I really went all in with that. And then I was very excited when they had me, they sometimes in Wendy's, they have you announce announce the stuff that's being ordered. And oh God, I love that. I had the microphone. It was like my own little, arena. I loved it. So I did a lot of fast food. I did Wendy's, I did Burger King. Well, just those two. But this is while I was still in school. Okay. I was still going to high school, and then I'd work at night at like Burger King and Wendy's, I believe. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Mm-hmm.
Tell us about what your parents did for work when you were young.
Yes, my the first thing I remember my mother doing was being a bartender, and so I put that in this play that I wrote. I've created this character who was a very kind of hip, funky kind of bartender based on my mom. But my mom had, she had studied in Colombia and here, and God, I wish I had it to show you guys, but I have this picture of her graduating, and she's the only woman. She's the only woman. It's such an extraordinary picture. Maybe I'll send it to you guys. Yeah. But she was interested in a lot of things, and she was always trying to pursue different things. And one of the, she was involved in like travel agency work at one point, like I said, a bartender. And then, life just got more expensive, and, she ended up, working as a hotel housekeeper. I remember the Sheraton Hotel. So she was always very, very hardworking.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. And very talented. She was actually an actress herself, and she did a play. Yeah. When I was 7 years old, she did a play, and I remember going there and watching her during rehearsals and stuff. And so she did a lot of different things.
Wow. Well, that was my next question. So was that when you got the acting bug? Was that when you thought, this is what I want to do?
Actually, it was before that, because that was it. That was when I was around age 7. And then I started sort of quote unquote acting way before that, because I loved television, and television was like, I watched so much TV, and I would, run and mimic what I saw on the screen. So I was already kind of acting without knowing, what I was doing. And that was around age 4 or 5. So I was already sort of doing that. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what, you probably don't have very much spare time, but what do you enjoy doing in that spare time?
You're right. I don't, especially these days. Gosh, what do it sounds so corny when I hear myself saying out loud. I love, like, I love drawing flowers and making, I did not make this, by the way, but I love making things like for my home, you know what I mean? Like just like drawing flowers or just, I'm very interested in like, beauty in the space. And I'm a little bit obsessive when it comes to cleaning. I've never spoken about this, but I remember asking a friend of mine, do you think it's a problem? But I, but it's sort of like when you don't have control of the outer world, you want to keep what you can't control in control. So in my spare time, I do find myself doing a lot of that. Yeah.
I wish my daughter had that. My 10-year-old daughter had that problem.
Well, it was always like, clean your room, clean your room, clean your room. And then as an adult, you're like, oh yeah, we got it. Yeah. Oh yeah, I get it now. Yeah.
Now I know we've just come out of we're still living in a pandemic, but we're at the end of it. What was life like for you when it happened? I mean, being in the, acting and in that industry, it would have been very tough. What was it like for you navigating through that for good 2 years, I would say?
Yeah. Well, I sort of had in 2019, what happened was that, I'm just going to kind of speak freely and, it's
definitely
going to be revealing a little bit about my life. So I was already kind of going through something, being that my grandmother was put on hospice, and she was only given a few months to live in March of 2019. So once we saw that she was actually going to survive her prognosis, then by that time I was I doing, I think I was doing Orange is the New Black, and had I done it? Yeah, I think it was coming out. That's what it was. It was coming out, and I had just finished it. And so she became my focal point. And then the pandemic came, and honestly, she was still my focal point. And so it was almost like, well, this just means I can spend more time with her. And that's actually what I started doing. So, so I really wasn't concerned about working, because I was like, well, listen, there's no jobs, there are no auditions anyway. And then they started kind of trickling in, like the auditions after several months. And, but I just felt like, oh gosh, I don't even have time to put myself on tape because I'm so busy with my grandma, So that's kind of like what that journey was like for me. But once I started working again, it was like, it was as if I'd never worked before, because just with the joy and the gratitude, and it was like, oh, the crew and the people that do your hair and your makeup, and you want to hug everyone, just like, I never thought I'd be here with you guys again. So that was thrilling.
Wow. And are the auditions over Zoom now, or are they gone back to in-person?
Not in person. I have not had an in-person. No, it's mainly like self-tapes. You just kind of tape yourself, or have, you have someone tape you, and then you send it in. And then if there are a few auditions that are via Zoom. But that's it. Nothing has been in person for me anyway.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, do you actually cook? And if so, what is your signature dish or your favorite food?
Well, I'm an excellent microwaver. That's if you need something nuked, this is your girl right here. Look, the truth is, I want to be able, I shouldn't say that, because if I really wanted to cook, I would just, really make the effort. But I do wish I could cook better than I do. But I'd say, I think I make a really mean pasta, because the trick is I add raw garlic, but you've got to do it. You got to add very little, and you've got to do it when the pasta is really steaming. So it almost like cooks it in itself, just with the really hot, you know what I mean? So I found that to be, quite my, a nice little invention of mine in terms of cooking. But I do wish I one day I just got to buckle down and just learn how to cook, because I really would love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Favorite holiday destination? Where do you like to go when you do have time and when you can travel as well?
I'm not much of a traveler.
Okay.
I don't even want to admit, like, the last time, I did like little mini things, but not, I'll tell you my favorite place in the world, probably Hawaii.
Wow. Yep.
But I think that if I went to Australia, that would be my new favorite place.
Oh, you're always
I
welcome.
think so.
Yeah.
My friend, what she, she's always like, she posts like these gorgeous pictures of how beautiful it is there. And I'm sure I would just love it.
Yeah. It's funny because everyone in the USA thinks we've got kangaroos in front of our doors. They think there's kangaroos everywhere, and there's not.
Yeah, no. but I did spend a month and a half in Hawaii, and that I think that became like my favorite like destination place. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But why would you want to go anywhere when you live in New York?
Exactly. Thank you, Ken. Ken understands me.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what TV shows you like?
Okay, there are so many TV shows that I haven't seen. I would say most of them, but I do, okay, I guess the most, oh gosh, I'm going to sound like such a, you mean recent or just in general?
Well,
recent.
in general.
Just in general. Well, I spoke in this other interview. I went gaga over Mare of Easttown. Did you guys see that?
Oh, I'm waiting. Oh, yeah, that's on my list. That looks amazing.
Oh, and I prefer comedies to watch, you know what I mean? But I've seen, completely judging myself right now. I do like Cobra Kai. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. That was because, I did Lean on Me, and the director of that was the director of Karate Kid. So there's like a little bit of a history.
You want to talk about him shortly?
What? Yeah. Cobra Kai, Mare of Easttown. But I used to watch more TV, several years ago. I loved shows like Cheers. I'm going way back.
Cheers. I love Cheers. Yeah.
Oh, Cheers I think I've probably seen every episode of Cheers, and I just think the writing is so brilliant. The dynamic between that Sam and Diane character dynamic. Oh my God. But I do enjoy comedies. Yeah, I really do. Yeah.
Fantastic.
What other shows can I tell you? Well, we'll leave it with that.
Yeah, that's great. Now, I read somewhere that you studied comedic acting at the Groundlings in LA. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yes, I did. My teacher she was very kind. And I think that what I ended up realizing through that training was that I tried too hard. Back then, she was like, you just need to and she was, but I really loved it. I met one of my other best friends in that class, and we're still in touch from that, and she lives in LA. It was, what it was? It was that it was after September 11th happened. I was like, I always do drama. There's so much pain in the world. I was like, how great would it be to be able to make people laugh? Yeah. And that's why I took that class, Really? Wow. Yeah, that was why. It was a direct result of, and that kind of started this sort of shift kind of personally as well, where I was like, I want to be able to do, lighter material, which I've mainly gotten to do in theater, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
9/11, were you in New York when that happened?
I was in LA
Yeah.
and I was filming 24. And we, I had to show up to set that day, and I was not even aware of what had happened. I knew that there was a lot of traffic going to work, and I was maybe about 5 minutes late or something, which I'm not usually late. And so I remember running out of the car and going, "Oh, so sorry, I'm late." It's just the traffic was just crazy. And Samantha, one of our PAs, goes, "That's okay. We know what happened in New York." And I was like, "What happened in New York?"
Oh, you didn't know.
And that's how I learned it.
Oh,
Yeah. And we were trying to film,
wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it was, and then we just had to stop filming.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it created this change in me where I was like, okay, enough with the drama. Like, there's something else in this world besides
Drama.
just gloom and doom.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
We understand that because even in Australia, when 9/11 happened, we were all absolutely dumbfounded. And I can speak from the way I felt when President Kennedy was assassinated. And I was working in television at that stage of the game, and it was very, very hard to do what we had to do on that particular day.
Yeah.
Because people were just shattered,
Yeah.
even all that way back then. Now, just
That's
moving
exactly the
on,
feeling.
we know many actors have various ways of learning their lines, but we would love to know what your process is when you're remembering lines.
I'm so, by the way, your questions, you guys, I appreciate them so much. They're so inventive, and they're so, no, really, I have never been asked these things before. And it's stuff that I've wanted to be asked, but no one asked, you know what I mean?
Right. I'm happy
So
about that.
it's very, it's just lovely, and just gives another, I think, another opportunity to talk about different things.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I'm so excited about this question because I have just found another technique for memorizing lines that is helping me so much. Okay. Because I told you about my little cleaning addiction thing, right? Okay. Right. No, so instead of watching Netflix like normal people, at the end of the day, I'm like scrubbing my tub. But the thing is, the question is, when you have lines to memorize, it's so hard because, when you have a compulsion, you're like, do I do the compulsion that keeps me safe, or do I do the thing that I'm supposed to be doing, right? But I found a way to incorporate both. I'm so excited. Okay. So what I'm doing is, because I don't like to learn my lines like with other people, because I think that, sometimes I do, but I think that I need a lot of time, and that's a lot to ask of someone continually to just keep, you know what I mean? So what I've started doing is I've started recording just my lines, right, of the scene, right? Just my lines. And then I noticed that, how like when you hear a song over and over again, you automatically remember it. So I've just been recording it over and over and over and over and over, and just playing it while I'm doing something else. And it is now sinking in so well. And it's great because I can multitask while I'm doing it. And then what I do, once I start to feel that, but this is sort of more recent, and once I start to feel like I start to really have them down, then I'll just record with the other person's lines. And then as I'm sort of multitasking, I will then just say the lines while I'm doing something. So it's a great, it's really saved me. So that's my newer technique. So what I used to do when we had in-person auditions, and it was like, bam, you really had to like memorize the lines really, 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 really well, like for auditions. What I would do is once I started to kind of get them down, I would then set a timer. And then for 10 minutes, I could go do something else. And then once the timer went off, I would do the lines. And then I'd set another, and I would just do them every 10 minutes like that and be really like precise about it. And it works because I'm a big believer in knowing your lines. Yeah.
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 So you're learning your lines and cleaning at the same time.
I'm so, I am too honest. This is like, who else would admit this?
That's amazing.
When are you coming to Australia? Because you can come to our house and clean.
I'm telling you, it's like, it's like Monica from Friends. Kind of like that. Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen that show?
Yeah. Love Friends.
Yeah, it's a little like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, your career spanning over 30 years. I could talk all day to you about everything you've done, but I've sort of hand selected a few things.
Sure.
You've done. Now, there's a movie called Lean on Me with Morgan Freeman, which I actually rewatched again the other night, and I mean, just such a great movie. And you're a big part of that movie. Did you have to audition for Lean on Me?
I probably had to audition for Lean on Me more times than any other project.
Really?
So many times. I just had to, like, I went for the audition, and then I'd go for a callback, and then I'd go for another callback. And it was all after like the first one where, I had some lines, then it was just like improv after improv, going in and improving and improving and improving. I don't remember exactly how many auditions, but I know that I had to go back several times for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
More than any other project, I think. Yeah.
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 This is a two-part question.
Sure.
We want to ask you about working with Morgan Freeman, but also his character was based on real-life principal Joe Clark of Paterson, New Jersey, East Side High, and said the movie was very accurate. Was Joe Clark ever actually on set?
Oh, yeah.
I was.
Oh, he was. And, I took a picture with him, and I lost that picture.
Oh, really?
But he was so sweet, and I took a picture with him, but I no longer have that picture. He was around a lot. He would just be like, oh, there's Morgan and there's Joe Clark. Like, they were just, Morgan Freeman was there to shoot, but he was there a lot. And always very kind, and never, he had a reputation of being very tough guy. You know what I mean?
Well, there's so many photos of him standing there with the baseball bat, and he looks scary, but when you actually
exactly that was the reputation. He had a little bit of a scary reputation, but he was never like that with us.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Morgan Freeman was, I've spoken about this before, so I don't want to like fully repeat myself, but he, I will just repeat myself because it's the truth, and why not say it to your audience. So I remember the first, he was not really famous as a movie actor at that time. Yes. So he was mainly known for the Electric Company. And that's where we knew him from. And so we were excited to work with the guy from the Electric Company. And so the first day he shows up, and he's wearing these stonewashed kind of purpley kind of hippie jeans, and so down to earth, and just lovely all around, and never kind of separated himself from the kids. He was always right there where the kids were, and very accessible to us. Like, we could go up to him anytime. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, great. Well, an experience. Yeah. And I mean, he wasn't the first choice. I mean, they said
he wasn't.
No, Sidney Poitier was the first choice, but he didn't agree with Joe's politics, so he turned the part down.
Oh, rest in peace.
Eddie Murphy as well.
Who?
Eddie Murphy was selected, but he had a contract with Paramount at the time. So,
That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
So interesting.
A great movie. I mean, I love the opening scene. You know, you got Welcome to the Jungle, guns and
Oh, isn't that just, yeah, I think they got a little bit of slack for picking that song.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah, because, you know, racially speaking, the song is Welcome to the Jungle. I think they got a little bit of like, why'd you have to pick that song? But that was not the intent. You know, it was more like, you know, the craziness, you know, nothing racial, but I think they got a little slack for that, but it worked so well, that song,
it's amazing.
that guitar in the beginning.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It was great. But I mean, Morgan Freeman was amazing. I mean, I love the part where he goes, you know, I'm the only HNIC here, and everyone's looking, what's a HNIC?
Oh yeah, don't say it, Matt. You're gonna get in trouble. No. Yeah. I'm saving you, Matt. Don't say it.
I won't say it.
But you know what's funny is that, not funny, but like that line always bothered me, you know, because I always thought, why does he have to say that word? Why does he have to refer to himself in that way? Yeah. And I just sort of find that, I don't know, it always made me go,
Yeah, it is like that. But I mean, I don't know, he just delivered it well, I believe.
Yeah, he did. Absolutely. Yeah. He did everything well, spot on. You know what line really stands out to me is, oh God, is it his line? Now I'm going to completely embarrass myself because I don't remember whose line it was, but it was either his line or Robert Guillaume. And when he says, you disappoint me, brother. You disappoint me. You remember that?
Yes.
Oh, my heart just drops hearing that line. I love it.
So many amazing scenes. And Joe Clark, unfortunately, passed away in 29th of December 2020 at the age 83.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's leaving.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, Lean on Me was directed. Now, this is what I really want to talk about is John Avildsen.
Avildsen.
Yes. Who's directed so many movies such as Cry Uncle, Save the Tiger, The Karate Kid, Rocky, and was also meant to direct Saturday Night Fever, but had a falling out with one of the producers. So what was it like working with John on Lean on Me?
Oh, John was, you know, I was just been thinking about him because, you know, the whole Cobra Kai thing, like I really wanted him, you know, I really wish he would have, you know, been alive to see what it's become, you know. It was absolutely wonderful working with him, you know, never a harsh moment, always very communicative with his actors, and loved actors. He always taped every rehearsal with his own personal camera. And if you look on his YouTube page, you'll see a lot of the Karate Kid footage from rehearsals is on his YouTube page. So he was always like very involved in that way, just kind of, you know, wanted to be very on top of everything. And then I stayed in touch with him because I had a personal connection with him after the film for many years. And then he was actually going to, I was producing a film that, you know, still on the table, you know, and he was going to direct it. He was going to direct this film that I was producing that I brought to him. Yeah. And then he passed away. So we were, you know, before he passed away, I was in touch with him a lot, and I got to see him out in LA and have dinner with him. And this was in 2016. Yeah. So just a wonderful man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Directed some amazing movies. Wow.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Is Lean on Me still a movie you get asked a lot about?
Oh yeah.
So long ago, but it's such a cult classic of a movie.
It is, and I get recognized for it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. He's like, you're the girl from Lean on Me. I'm like, yeah. How the hell did you? You know what I mean? Like, it's like so long ago, but but yeah, I get recognized for it, and people really, they gravitate towards that movie,
Yeah,
which is great.
definitely.
Yeah.
Now there's a something that intrigues me greatly. It's called Love Junkies of Hell's Kitchen.
Yes.
Tell us.
Okay, so that was the character that I was telling you that I based on my mom. You know,
Oh, wow.
it was a two-person play, and the reason that I specifically made it a two, I've written two plays, and Love Junkies of Hell's Kitchen was the second one that featured that character, the character based on my mom, and the one before that was not. There were several characters, but I'm very fascinated by the intimacy between two people, just two people, no distractions, and what comes from that. And so, you know, I wanted to write a two-person play, so it was sort of like about something that I was going through, but it was too exposing to write it as myself. So I wrote it, I made the main character like my mom, you know, and I made it that she was going through it, right? You know, let her deal with it, right? Let me, you know, because the first play, I put myself in it, and it was very exposing. It was like, this is what I'm dealing with. And then the second one, I was like, no, I'll just make it as my mom. You know what I mean? But it's really about me, you know what I mean? And so it was a two-person play, and it's the term Love Junkies. I'm not a fan of the word junkie at all, but in conjunction with Love Junkie, it kind of gives it like this sort of interesting kind of, almost like endearing kind of sound. And so that just kind of came to me, and it's really about these two sort of love junkies in the way that they're really ultimately in love with each other, and the obstacles that, you know, come up that they're both dealing with. And yeah, that's basically the premise of the play, like two people coming together after like not really being aware of what's really going on between the two of them. Yeah. Amazing. So that's where the term Love Junkies comes from. Yeah.
So is it actually set in Hell's Kitchen?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And Hell's Kitchen is like a big part of it, because Chula has this opening monologue, you know, she has a reality show that she's doing for public access. And so there's a camera there, and she talks to the camera, and she talks about her, you know, her apartment in Hell's Kitchen. And I mentioned, and I actually went to these bars that I mentioned because I was trying to find, like, where would she work? You know what I mean? And where would her and Mickey hang out? And, you know, and so I went to these different places to look at the vibe and be like, is this the right vibe? And then all those places, I put them in the play, and they're all in Hell's Kitchen. And I grew up in Hell's Kitchen. I lived in Hell's Kitchen most of my life. It's a great place. Yeah.
Okay. So now tell us what.
One other thing. Can I say one other thing about that? That ties into what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
John Avildsen was executive producer on the Love Junkies of Hell's Kitchen.
Oh, was he?
Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And that was completely his doing. He found out about the project, and he reached out to me, and he was like, I'm interested. I want to help. I want to, you know, it was great. Yeah.
You think you could ever turn it into a movie, like an actual film?
You know what? Honestly, I think it might work better as a film.
Wow.
That's something to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm sorry, Ken, go ahead.
Film, TV, or theatre? What's your preference?
Well, great question. You know, I'll say, well, really right now it would be film and TV. And I think right now more TV, only because for some reason I used to audition for way many more films. And now it's few and far between, and mostly everything is television. What I love, so I would say TV, just because that's mostly like what's, but what I love about stage is that there are no breaks, there's no, cuts, you really do get to live this whole other life on stage. And that has been very, very rewarding. But I would say film and TV. Yeah.
Amazing. Now, speaking of TV, you appeared in a soap opera called As the World Turns as Bianca Marquez Walsh for 21 episodes. Now, I do have to read this because I thought our local show, we've got a show called Neighbours here that's been running for 37 years.
Oh my God. Is it a soap?
Yeah, it's a soap.
Yeah.
It's, Ken worked on it in the early days, and it's just wrapped up. It's been axed.
Oh no!
Only 9,000 episodes, but this, As the World Turned, was 54 years and 13,858 episodes. Which, I mean, I haven't watched them all, but yeah,
that's quite a run. That's quite a run.
How did you get the part on As the World Turns?
I remember that so clearly. I really, certain things just stand out in your mind. I remember going in for, oh gosh, I knew this was going to happen to me, that I was going to forget people's names that I should remember. But he was the head guy. I think his last name was Caro, but very sweet man. I remember just going into his office. And no, actually, I'm sorry. No, first it was for the casting director, and it was just me, myself and the casting director, and then just doing the scene where you first see her in the soap, and then going in, it was just me and the main guy from As the World Turns in his little tiny office, just going in and just like doing the scene for him. And that was it. And I got the part. It was just those two auditions. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Can I just take a minute? I just want to read something out about the creator of this show, because I found the history of her really fascinating. Her name was Erna Phillips, and she was one of 10 children born to a German Jewish family in Chicago. Her father died when she was 8, leaving her mother alone to raise the children. She claimed to be a lonely child, always given hand-me-down clothes and making up long and involved stories for her dolls to live out. At 19, she was pregnant, abandoned by her boyfriend, and then gave birth to a stillborn baby. She studied drama at the University of Illinois, where she became a member of the Phi Sigma Sigma sorority, receiving a Master of Arts degree before going on to earn a master's degree in journalism. Now, in 1949, she created the first serial broadcast on a major television network, These Are My Children, which ran on NBC for 1 month. In 1956, she created As the World Turns, one of the first 2 daytime serials to run a half-hour in length, the other being The Edge of the Night, which premiered on CBS the same day. Within 2 years, As the World Turns had become the highest rated drama, a position it would retain for over 2 decades. Within 6 months of the series debut, Phillips fired lead actress Helen Wagner because she reportedly did not like the way she poured coffee. Now, Procter & Gamble and CBS both backed Wagner, and Phillips was forced to rehire her. Wagner remained as a cast member on the series until her death in 2010, just months before As the World Turns concluded. Last thing, in the 1940s, Phillips wrote 2 million words a year, dictated 6 to 8 hours a day, and earned $250,000 a year back in the 1940s. I just found that really fascinating.
It is really fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. I never would have known that. I never researched it myself. It was, that is, what an amazing woman.
Yeah. She was.
My God.
Yeah. They should have a movie about her life. It was very.
They should.
To read. Sorry.
Yeah. I know. I gotta look her up.
Yeah.
What an inspiration.
But I mean, what an amazing show to go for so long as well. 54 years. I mean, it's just
quite a run.
Sorry.
Now we think, oh, 9 seasons is so long now. You know what I mean? Now we're like, oh, we gotta, yeah.
Tell us about how you feel about the differences of working on soap compared to a movie, and which do you prefer?
Well, I'll tell you, what I loved about the soap. Well, one of the things I really did love that job. I really did. It was so fun. And one of its advantages is that everything moves so quickly.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a lot of fun, because with film, you can do take after take after take after take, and that gets like, oh, it's very difficult. So, however, with film, there's a lot more time to really delve in and to rehearse and to, depending on the film and depending on who's directing. So that I do love about it. So overall, I would say film, only because I think that, I'm sorry, soap fans, for saying this, but the time lends to quality. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes when you don't have the time to really delve into things, the quality suffers a little bit. Yeah. But it could be a lot of fun, and it doesn't mean that the quality is necessarily bad. It's just that time advantage, could help with quality. So I would say film, but I really did love the soap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of film, Falling Down, one of my all-time favorite. I mean, this movie is just, if you're ever having a bad day, you need to go and watch Falling Down.
Oh yeah. Oh, and he's so good in that. He's so good in that, Michael Douglas. And Robert Duvall, of course, that goes without saying.
And coincidentally, Michael Douglas's father, Kirk, said at the time that was one of his favorite performances of his son on Falling.
I can see why.
Yeah.
Sure, because it's so different.
Yeah, he is.
So different than from anything he had ever done.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's okay. What was it like working on that movie? I mean, would have been amazing.
Yeah, well, what happened was that I got hired in New York, and so I had to go to LA to film it. And so I kept going, I went back a few times, to do because they weren't just shooting all my stuff all at once, and they couldn't pay to just kind of keep me there that whole time, you know what I mean? So I got to go back and forth a few times. And, at the time, and thank goodness for this, I really didn't realize the heavy hitters that I was working with. And ignorant, and thank God for like youth ignorance, you know what I mean? Because if I had really taken it in, like Michael Douglas, Robert Duvall, Joel Schumacher, yeah, I would have been paralyzed. I would have been like, but I was just like, a silly kid who like, basically, who was just like, hey, yeah, I'm going to do this movie. But I had no clue, the greats, you know what I'm saying? And so that worked out well, that I really didn't really take that into account. But it was, I remember I posted like a little video of myself on my Instagram, and I was in the little trailer and I was just on cloud 9, I was just dove into that character, and I loved her feistiness. And there was one scene where, well, you've seen it. Yeah. Have you seen it, Ken? You like that film?
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't? Oh, that's okay. I put Ken on the spot. I'm so sorry, Ken. Yeah. But, when Michael Douglas shoots up the gang members and they're in the car, and then I run over, I had no idea we were going to shoot that scene next. I don't know what happened, but I had no idea. I thought I was like done for the day or something. And then they were like, oh yeah, we're getting ready for the next scene. And I was like, oh, what next scene? And then this is where your training comes in, right? Yeah. And it's like, oh yeah, the scene where you, or maybe I thought it was going to be after lunch, or I had time to prepare. Like, the scene where you run up to the car and they're all basically dead or dying. And I'm like, oh oh my God, because we had just done another scene and I'm in a totally different mood and I'm actually in a really good mood. You know what I mean? So I had to just make a very fast choice of who that was to me, and it worked, so, but I loved every single moment of that, and working with Joel Schumacher oh my God. Yeah, so great.
That's what I love about your work. You give so much justice to every character you play. It's so
Thank
real
you.
and it's so, and I'll get to, Orange is the New Black shortly, but
thank you.
yeah, you're so real and raw and you just play every part. So like you can't fault any of it.
Thank you so much, Matt. I had a great teacher and he was very, he made sure that whatever we did, we were connected to it. And he wouldn't allow fake acting, you know what I mean? He would just say, I don't believe you, you know what I mean? It's like, and he knew me so well that by the time, it just got to the point where he would just say, okay, do it, but now think of this person. He knew who in my life I could think of that would bring about that result. And so,
yeah,
I'm grateful to him.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Robert Duvall?
Oh, yes. Oh my God. He just so sweet and so humble. Like, he like, gosh, like, he's just the type of person that he'd be like, oh yeah, I brought you some coffee over. You know what I mean? He just so like, not like Robert Duvall, like just so sweet. And I remember him coming to my trailer and asking me if I liked tango. I don't know why. He was very into tango at that time. I mean, hopefully he still is, but it was a passion of his. And I think he just wanted, and I think maybe because I'm, Hispanic, he might, he maybe just wanted to talk tango, just so sweet, just all good stuff. And I remember, and the other thing he said to me was, you could stand to gain about 10 pounds. And he was right. He was right. I really was very underweight at the time. And, but I think he was really trying to help me. I think he was really coming from a place of like, you might get more roles if you just ate a little more or something. I don't know. But I remember him saying that to me. And I remember I did not get offended because the way he said it, it was like a father, you know what I mean? Yeah. Very sweet man, very sweet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great movie though. I mean, I remember the first scenes where he's stuck in traffic and he's so frustrated. Then he gets to the fast food restaurant and he's a minute out from breakfast and he's pulls out the gun and then the breakfast doesn't look like the one on the picture. And
yes,
it's how everyone feels at sometimes. Sometimes you do feel, it's how you feel sometimes though in general life. You get cut off in a car, traffic, being late.
Yeah. And who was the writer that I know? Before this interview, I knew this was going to happen. I was like, there's so many names that you should know that, you're just going to forget, Karina. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to accept it. The writer of that, what was his?
I'll look it up. So I forget Ken's name every day. So don't.
Yeah. I almost feel like it's like Ebby or something like that. Ebby
was directed by Joel, and it was, let me just double check here. Written by, Ebby Rowe Smith.
Oh my God. I can't believe it. Oh my God. Okay. Ebby Smith?
Yes.
He was on set a lot.
Ah, okay.
And I remember being like worried, like to meet him, because like who would write this movie? Because it's so well written, like you think, oh, he's got to be like that guy. But I remember him so well. He had these little glasses and he'd just be standing there like watching everything, very, very jovial, very like, you know what I mean? It was like, yeah, so it's such nice memories.
Yeah, wow. Now we've covered my next question, Ken, so we'll move over to yours.
Yes, you worked with the late Philip Seymour Hoffman Can you share with us and the fans anything about working with this legendary actor who we sadly lost in 2014?
Yeah. Well, I had known him before he became famous because I was, I loved going to Labyrinth Theater's productions, and he was part of Labyrinth. And so it was sort of like a group of us that would go see everything he was in there. And so I knew, I would spend time with him in groups, before that. And then I worked with him on Joel Schumacher's other movie, Flawless, which, he played, I guess, a drag queen. I hope I'm saying the right term. And he was just phenomenal. So we got to work on that together. And because we'd already known each other, it was very, just comfortable. Anyway, so sort of fast forward, I just remember two moments where he gave me such gifts. And one of them was that first play that I told you about with the character Chula. I actually read it at their retreat, their Labyrinth Theater retreat. Wow. And people acted it out with me, you know what I mean? And he came to see it, and it was a very personal story. Like, I don't know how I had the guts. Like, I would never do that now. I'm like, no, I'm zippy the lippy. You know what I mean? No, that's not true. I hope I would be like that, but the opportunity has not presented itself, or I have not created it. Anyway, so, but it was a very personal story, and I think he could tell. And then he came up to me afterwards, and he asked me, "Was that based on, your own experience?" I said, "Yes." And he told me he'd really enjoyed it, and that meant everything to me to have that coming from him. And I've spoken about that in an interview, but one thing I didn't talk about in an interview is when I was doing his company's play at the Public Theater, which is a kind of very prestigious theater here in New York City. And his company and Public Theater did a collaboration together. And I was doing this play, and honestly, I don't know why I got cast for this role, because I was I was completely lost. Really? Doing this role. Every day I would be like, what? I don't know what I'm doing. It was such a different role. It was a woman who was very ill, and she was very dependent on she was very dependent on her younger sister, actually, because she had all these diseases, and she was a little deformed and all of that. And I just and she was supposed to be really funny. And I had no idea how to do that, but I got the part. And anyway, this is all leading up to something I promised that has to do with Philip Seymour Hoffman. So I'm lost for weeks in rehearsal. And every day I'm like, I don't know why I'm here. They made a mistake hiring me, all these things. And one day, Phil comes to rehearsal, and, we're rehearsing, and he comes up to me and he goes, "You're doing really great."
Wow. Wow.
And after being lost for weeks and and then him just telling me that, but he was like that. He would just give you these gifts, you know what I mean? And so, yeah.
So from that moment when he said you're doing a great job, did your whole perspective change on that role?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Because no one had, because I even remember, I'm not going to say who, because I don't want to get in trouble, but I even remember going up to people involved in the production and saying, "I don't know what I'm doing." Like, I need help, you know what I mean? And I think they're, and I don't think they were coming from a bad place. I think that they really thought this. They were like, "You'll figure it out. You'll find it. You'll figure it out." You know what I mean? And I felt that I wasn't until that moment when he said that. And I went, oh, okay.
Yeah, you've got it.
Okay. So he just completely changed that whole experience for me.
Amazing. Wow.
He was very generous and very loving.
Yeah, such a, I mean, so many great movies. I mean, I remember the movie Capote, Truman Capote. It was, I love that movie so much that he was in. It was just, his performance was amazing.
He completely transformed himself.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very
I
sad.
still can't believe it.
Yeah, no, it is. Now another movie. Are we okay for time? You still got time with us?
I'm good. I'm having such a fun time with you guys. We might break your old record.
Awesome.
No, I'm just kidding. No pressure.
No, we've got all day. The movie 187 with Samuel L. Jackson in 1997, directed by Kevin Reynolds. I love this movie. How did you
His
get the
bracelet?
part? Was that his? Wow.
Well, he gave it to me, so I wore it specifically because of that. And John Avildsen's earrings.
Oh, amazing.
To show it to you guys. Yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. How did you get the part on this movie?
Oh, okay. That was okay. So that was also filmed in LA, and I auditioned in New York. And so I just remember, you know, reading this one part in the script, you know, that the character was, I won't curse, but one effed up little girl.
You can curse, it's all right.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah.
So it described one of the films one of the scenes in the films, and in the film, and then it said in parentheses, because of what she was doing, this is one you know, fucked up little girl. And I remember going, I can do that. So I just kind of went and auditioned with for the casting director, wonderful woman, Marianne Calhoun, I believe was the casting director, one of the greats, and she's no longer with us. But I remember auditioning for her, and then I had to go back and audition just for her again, right? I think maybe she gave me a note or something, right? So I went back just once, and then it was like, Kevin Reynolds wants to have a meeting with you. Not even an audition, it was just a meeting.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I'd never done that before, where it was just like, you don't have to audition anymore. Like, we know that, you know, we want you, but we're just going to meet. And yeah, it was great. We just, I can't remember where we met, but it was, you know, other people in the room there. And we just kind of talked about the role and about her and about the movie in general. You know, and, you know, he told me, you know, we're going to really research this and really, and, you know, once, you know, I was on board, like in terms of like, you know, everything was official. We did a lot of research. We went to those schools beforehand.
Oh, you did?
And, oh yeah. And I remember going with Samuel Jackson and with Clifton Collins, who was in Capote. He played one of the criminals there in Capote, one of the people that were, you know, that were ultimately hung. So we all went and we walked in the halls of these schools, and, you know, it was like a lot of research, and, you know, they had to do, you know, wardrobe tests, makeup tests, like it was a whole big, like very big production. Yeah.
Wow.
Were you actually nervous to work with Samuel Jackson, and what was it like to work with him?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, I always get nervous regardless of who I'm working, whether they're well known or not, because I'm always like, I just want to do a good job. You know, yeah, it was great working with him because he was very professional. And, you know, like I've talked about this before, my regret is that I think because because I was a girl and I was working mainly with men, I felt like I didn't know how to get in that little group, you know? So, and I think my own nerves made me a little shy. And so I kind of kept my distance, but not on purpose, just because I didn't know how to really bond, you know? So I don't know if he took that as me being sort of aloof towards him. He might have, you know, but it, you know, we had a very good time working together.
Do you mind if can I just break down a couple of scenes of that movie just for the?
Oh yeah.
Like it blew me away, this movie, and from the start, Samuel riding his bike into the school through the and then he's being stabbed and everything like that. And you're filming the sorry, go.
No, can I interject just something that the director of photography I thought did a brilliant job, because before the stabbing, on one coast, I think it's the East Coast, everything is blue light, on the undertones of blue, and then when you get out, everything is more warmer and stuff. So, but anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, but that's true. I mean, it was great. Everything the way it was filmed. Now you're filming that first classroom scene, and you tell him he's got a nice butt. What was it like filming that first classroom scene and being amongst it all? Well,
I don't think that's the first thing that we shot.
Oh,
so by then I was a little more comfortable by then. If I remember correctly, I think one of the first things that we shot was, what was it? One of the first things that we shot was a scene where I'm actually kind of topless in that scene, you know?
Is that the scene where you're at the house? That's one scene.
No, okay. No, it's like I'm topless and then I'm fully naked. Sorry, Ken. Apologies to your audience.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, but by that time, I'm sorry, to answer your question, the when I tell him he has a nice butt, I think I had already shot some stuff, so I think I was already like a little more comfortable by that point. Yeah.
So we cut to the scene at his house, and he's helping you with some homework, and he's at the
fridge. This is much later on.
Yeah, much later on. And then he comes to the lounge room, and you're lying on the couch naked, and he said, put your clothes on. Now, I bring this scene up not because you were naked, but what emotions did you draw on to play that scene, but also, you know, also being naked at the same time?
Yeah. Well, I was more, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Was that difficult for you to do?
Well, you know, I was actually more concerned about getting the emotion right.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that as a young woman, I think what I drew upon was, you know, this feeling of shame. You know what I mean? That I've done something deeply shameful. You know what I mean? And I think that that's probably what I drew from. You know, I don't remember now exactly what it was, but it was probably a sort of a collage of things that I kind of, you know. And then the other thing is that when you do different takes, it's good to have different things ready. Like, I'll think about this, and then if that doesn't work, then I can think about this, and then I can, you know, different kind of things ready. But that was really, I was more concerned about that than the nakedness part. Yeah. So, it was good for me to have that to focus on. And then the truth is that it's difficult the first time, you know, you're there and you're in a robe, and, you know, it's a closed set, and, you know, everyone's being very respectful, you know, and so. And I think there was a woman there who, oh gosh, she was like ready with the robe, and so she was very comforting and everything. But the truth is, honestly, like after the first few times that you just take the robe off, you get on the couch, and then you're just like, you get really comfortable with it. You're like, oh yeah, here's my robe. And you're just like, well, everybody's seen it, whatever. You just lay down, you know, and the fact that you're thinking more about, because the whole time I'm thinking, you know, I'm the clothing part is second, and I'm more thinking about, you know, my own personal choices and what I'm thinking of for that, for the emotion.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. One scene I found really hard to watch was the schools out in the yard where Caesar, you know, physically bashing you. I mean, that was really full on. What was it like? Was it hard?
Yeah, you know, I'm gonna ruin it for everybody, but the truth is that after each single take, Cliff and I hugged each other.
Okay.
After every take, because he's not that, you know what I mean? And he felt horrible, you know what I mean? And I'm very little, and I was even littler back then, you know? And so for him to like go full out and just be doing that, you know, he felt terrible, you know? So we would do it, and it was very safe because we had a stunt coordinator there who I think is actually in the movie.
Oh, really?
I think so. I think he's there as another role, but he also was a stunt coordinator. And so we're doing all that, and then, you know, he rips my shirt open, and we're doing all of that. And we did it so many times, and each time we would do it, we go, okay, hug each other. Go back on, just to keep the balance of, like, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
So violent, you know, you're watching.
It was.
You know,
It was. Yeah. And then there's a part where I'm on the floor and I'm like, you know, fighting them off. And but at the same time, it was exhilarating because everything is, you know, your adrenaline's going and your heart's pumping, and you're like, okay, we're going again. Okay.
Yeah.
Hug Cliff. All right, here we go again. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Now, I don't want to ruin the ending for people that haven't seen it, so I won't talk about the ending because
okay.
the ending blew me away. But the speech you did at the end in front of all the students and everything, what was it like to do that? That would have been, I mean, it was an amazing speech.
You know, I'm going to tell you guys stuff that I've never talked about and talking about this movie. I was so concerned about getting that right. I didn't leave my hotel room for 3 days.
Oh, really? Wow.
Because I don't do that anymore because now I trust myself more.
Yeah.
But back then, you know what? I did leave once, and it was to go to the, I went to the Holocaust Museum to sort of just, because I wanted to feel that I was making a speech and about something really important to me. So I wanted to kind of feed myself with this sense of like, I need to make a difference in this world. I need to speak up against injustice. And I think so that I did that, but I didn't leave my room other than that, you know, and
Wow.
So I really wanted to put myself in a completely different space because she had just lost probably the only grown-up who ever really showed her that kind of care and attention. So I wanted to put myself in that space. So anyway, so when we did it, and I also, so I had that, you know, the whole trip to the Holocaust Museum, but then I also had some personal choices from my own life. And we only did 4 takes of that speech.
Oh, really?
So we did, just 4 takes.
Oh.
And then we did 3 of them, and I would get a little, you know, emotional and stuff like that. And then Kevin Reynolds just said to me, just let it go. You know what I mean? Just whatever you want to do with it, just do it. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know, like, how emotional do you want me? Do you know, like that kind of thing? And he said something like, I trust your instincts. Just do what you want to do. You know what I mean? And then that gave me the freedom. And then I was able to just have that moment where I, you know what I mean? And like very overcome and then once I did that, it was like 4 takes and that's it.
Wow. I mean, it was just, you know, watching it, and it was like one of those moments, you know, when you sort of feel like the hairs stand up on your back, or you get that feeling.
Thank you so much.
It was, so powerful. I really loved it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Amazing.
One of my most impact, like for me as a person, you know, to do it and to like, okay, it worked. It just so, I have a lot to be grateful for that I, have moments like that.
I never knew why that movie didn't achieve the success that it deserved.
I know.
I don't understand. It was.
I know.
Yeah.
It really, I think objectively watching it years later, I was like, this is so profound.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Sorry, Ken.
Go ahead, Ken.
Before I ask this next question, I would like to assure you that I have been on a number of closed sets in the past, and when I was a lot younger.
Uh-huh. So you know what it's like.
Yes, I certainly do.
Yeah.
So now, next question. What was it like for you during the pandemic? Were you still working?
Well, I did one job during the pandemic, but I did it from home, and it was a radio play that, again, the public theater. Yeah. I mean, my part was not big at all because it was the apothecary in Romeo and Juliet, and they made it sort of like a bilingual version of that, Romeo y Julieta, and that was Lupita Nyong'o. She played Juliet, and tons of other fantastic actors. And so even though I didn't have a big part, there was a lot of group stuff that we did together, and group vocals. And so I did that during the pandemic. And then I think the next thing was, I think Blacklist, as once the vaccines came around. Yeah.
Amazing. So just to let you know, I probably should have said, so Ken worked as a head cameraman in the 70s and 80s on a TV show that our podcast is based on called Prisoner, which was a cult classic TV show in Australia, which probably a lot of other shows like Orange is the New Black and things got some ideas from the time. Yeah. So Ken was crew, and
I was wondering where it all came from. Yeah, Talking Prisoner.
Yeah,
fantastic. And you were a fan of the show.
Yes.
And then you guys met up somehow and were like, let's do a show about the show.
Yeah, well, during the pandemic, I've gone, I wanted to do some different things, and I found Ken through Facebook because
and it was true love.
Yeah,
it was meant to be. It was kismet.
Yeah. I said, "How about you want to host a podcast with me?" And he goes, And we met up, and he goes, "Yeah, I'll do that." So here we are. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful! Oh, you guys make such a great team, and let me tell you, your questions are phenomenal. I just love it.
Oh, great!
It's a really nice vibe.
Awesome.
Which is really a compliment, but
yeah,
because there's only us three people that are going to see this.
I know you've got a big viewership. Yeah.
Tell us what advice would you have for any upcoming actors or writers? Do you think with all the streaming services now, it's made it easier for people to get into the entertainment industry?
I'm sorry, you said any upcoming actors or what?
Writers.
Oh, writers, right. Okay. Well, I'm more familiar with the acting stuff. The writing stuff is more, I'll leave that to the real writers,
You have written some things, though.
What?
You have written some things, though.
I have, but I don't, consider myself more an actress, I guess. But thank you. Okay, I would say that I think the biggest thing that you really need to face when being an actor is yourself. So I would say, don't use acting as an escape from yourself. Use it as a way to get closer to yourself. And really know yourself, because you are your own instrument. You're just working with you. And the other thing I would say is that to remember what is what is pure about acting, because the business is man-made.
Yeah.
And that can really get you down, because there's a lot of rejection involved. And a lot of times it doesn't really have much to do with you certainly as a person or as an artist. It's just, they have a vision. And if you don't, you could be the best actor in the world, but you're just not matching that vision, and know that it is a business. It is a man-made business. But if you give it too much, if you make that the focal point, like, I just want them to like me, you start to lose some of yourself, Yes, you want to do the best work you can, but keep the focus on the work, and don't, I hear so many things of like, people like approaching it from kind of this strategic place, like, oh, if I can just find my right type and then I could become this type and then they'll hire me or whatever. And it's like, be you and do your life and have all the things you love in your life and have a rich life, and heal, and then bring that into your work.
Wow, that's some amazing advice. Yeah.
Thank you. Stay true to what's pure about it, what is not man-made.
Yeah, wow. Great advice. And I mean, especially from you, you've done so much. So that's
thank you.
Now, one of my favorite shows, Orange is the New Black. Do you mind if we can just walk through some of that?
Oh yeah.
I've been dying to speak about this with you. You played Carla Cordova in 2019. Now, how did you get the part for Carla? Did you have to audition for that one as well?
Yeah, so that was just one audition. I remember getting it late in the day, and that it was for the next day. And I wanted some more time with the material. So I asked if I could go in later, because they wanted me to come in like in the morning. And I was just like, I just got this, can I? So I remember, so I was the last person they saw that day, because my appointment was like then at like 7:30 at night, Yeah. And so the casting director is so sweet, SJ Aloko. And, it was emotional. Some of the, I think one of the scenes that I had to audition was emotional. And I just remember, I think, asking her if I could do it again, because I just wanted to be able to really get that, really captured what she was going through. And she said, yes, of course. And I took a moment, and I did it again. And then it was like, all right, we got it. And then I didn't think I got it, because the role started pretty soon and I hadn't heard, and I thought, oh gosh, I didn't get it. And then, I heard that I got it, and that was it. That was it. Just one audition.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Had you watched the show prior to doing it? And was it a show you were hoping to be on?
I had not watched the show. This is like my whole, I just went through this with the Blacklist fandom. They asked me, they were like, because I have watched all of Blacklist by now, I caught up. They were like, yeah, but did you watch before or after? And I'm like, yeah, after, but it was similar with Orange. I had seen a few episodes that were sent to me as like screeners, because I wanted to be familiar with, with the characters and everything. And so I did know, some of the people that some of the characters that were on and stuff, but I really didn't know a lot of the people that were on it. So in terms of it being a show that I definitely wanted to be on the show. I knew it was a great show. And I thought, being Hispanic, being that they had a lot of, minority characters, I was like, oh, when am I going to get to be on that show? I really wanted to be on that show, but I didn't. It was on for several seasons before I even auditioned once. I only auditioned for one other, major character. And this was late, and late in the seasons, and then two really, smaller characters that I went in like, few lines here, few lines there, and then one other, major character, and then I auditioned for Carla. But it wasn't until I think after the 5th season that I ever even went in and auditioned once for that.
Oh, so you auditioned for some other parts on the show?
Yeah, two smaller parts, and then one larger role that came in much later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but for several seasons, I did not audition for the show.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when did you get a character breakdown when you took the part, and did you know it was going to be 6 episodes?
No, I didn't. It said recurring, but that could mean anything. That could mean one more episode, 2 more episodes. They were, from what I remember, one of the producers saying, Carolina Pais, they had an idea where they might want to go with her, but they weren't sure. You know what I mean? So they started off very slow and stuff, and then they were able to go with the idea that they wanted to for her. Yeah.
Wow. Now I want to just quickly talk about the show creator, Genji Cohen. Now she's created some amazing TV shows. I mean, Weeds was just phenomenal. She's also produced.
Never saw it either, but
shows like
shooting myself in the foot here.
What was that? Sorry.
I said I'm just shooting myself in the foot here. There was no reason for me to say I hadn't seen it, but I've never seen it.
I haven't seen Weeds. Okay.
I've never seen Game of Thrones, Grey's Anatomy, Breaking Bad. What?
I haven't seen.
You haven't seen it? Okay, all right. I don't feel so bad. Okay, great.
Ken has it, so we're all good here.
Okay, all right, we're good. Okay, yeah.
What was it like working with her? Did you get to meet her on the show?
With Genji?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get to meet her until the last day.
Oh, really? Wow.
The last day when we all took this really big cast picture and everything, and and I got to meet her then, and then I got to talk to her at the wait, was it? No, I'm sorry. I think she was there when we all took the cast picture, but I don't think I went up to her. So I don't think I got to meet her until the premiere party.
Okay. Yep.
And that's when I met her, and I thanked her profusely. And yeah.
The prison looked very real on the show. Was it actually shot on location or in the studio?
Yeah, that was in a studio. But it really was. I kind of felt that I was living 2 lives, honestly. I felt like I had my life, and then I felt like I had the space was so real that I felt that, Carla had her life there in that detention center, and it was so very well done, very well put together.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Covered mine, Ken. We'll work on to yours.
Well, I can say I understand that because I was locked up for 8 years on the run of prison. So we were locked in one studio all the time.
And it was a prison cell?
Well, we had sets with prison cells and corridors and so forth and so on. So I know the feeling.
It's like a home away from home.
Yeah, yes.
You're like, I'm just in my second home right now.
And they were doing 16-hour days as well. I mean, it was huge back then.
Yeah, it was very.
Is this show of? I'm sorry.
It's very cast and crew oriented as far as we worked together, during that time, and that was the only thing that we did.
Yeah.
Basically all week.
Is that available to stream somewhere?
Yes, it's on Tim. I'll send you a link to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in checking it out.
Yeah.
Yes, probably your set probably doesn't have the wobbly walls that the prisoner set does, but the storylines were so riveting that you wouldn't notice the wobbly walls.
Yeah.
That's what
Oh
I'm
my
saying.
God. Oh.
Shows here in Australia are produced differently to shows in the USA. Can you run the fans through a typical day on the set of Orange is the New Black? Are there script read-throughs, rehearsals? Are the writers on the set?
Yeah, so basically you come in the morning and, you know, they always offer you breakfast and then you have some time to get into your costume and then you go to hair and makeup, which is, it's the only show where they look at you and go, how do we make you look worse? You know what I mean? It was like, yeah, they would like draw the dark circles and then add, as if I haven't plucked my eyebrows in months, just add, and yeah. So anyway, so you go to hair and makeup and then you have some time, you know, while they're setting up. Yeah, and then you go down for a rehearsal and, you know, you just basically just, it's you're pretty much just kind of saying the lines, you know, it's not an acting rehearsal, you know. And then they bring the crew in and then you do it again for the crew and then they set up, you know, then you have some more time where the crew sets up, you know, the lighting and everything that they need to do. And then you come back and you do a camera rehearsal.
Wow.
And then you shoot. Wow. It's pretty fast, yeah.
And what's breakfast like on the set? Is it good?
On that, oh, it's, yeah. Oh yeah, it's always good because they always have like an omelet person, you know, and then they have, you know, you can pick whatever kind of omelet you want, and yeah, they have bacon and eggs, and it's good. It's very good.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, on a serious note, your storyline centered around illegal immigration, which is still a huge problem around the world, and your character had the most devastating storyline. Now, I just want to read something from the executive producer from Orange, Tara Herman. I hope I got that right.
Yeah.
You might think these new storylines are inspired directly by recent headlines about the US-Mexico border crisis and child separation, but Orange executive producer Tara Herman says the desire to tackle immigration has been prelocating for years. There's a world where there could be an entire series about this because sadly, the crossovers between prison and immigration processing centers are too scary. Herman says, visiting a center in Los Angeles to research and talk to people, it was shocking for us to see how much more stark life was for these detainees than it is even for the inmates. There was no personal items whatsoever and a lack of social services. All of them were asking to see doctors and for us to pass along information to family members. Basic needs were not being met. So even research, you know, a producer for a show in these detention centers were being asked to pass on messages. I mean, it's just, I'm not trying to go political here either, because I think
no, it's horrific.
Yeah. And she also said this was months before the conversation really started heating up like it has been recently. She continues, so for us, it was like, whoa, this is real. And as it started progressing in the news media too, we were validated in our feelings, sadly. So did you do any research yourself as well into the storyline of child separation and illegal immigration?
Well, I had been following it because by the time it did get around to me, you know, to me auditioning for it, I had been following it just in the news and the, you know, the horrific policy that was, you know, that was occurring in the US. And so when the first separated children, this is before Orange, that when the first separated children arrived in here in New York, in Harlem.
Oh, no.
Yeah, there was a detention, not a, I don't know, some place there where they brought them, and I wanted to go visit them, and I called them, and they were like, no, we don't allow them to have visitors. So that was my first sort of you know, this thing of like, I want to do something about this, you know, and I just, I personally just felt very devastated, because it's a subject I'm passionate about in terms of, you know, children should be with their parents, you know what I mean? So, but that planted this seed of like, and then when I got the audition, I was like, this is my chance to represent, you know, at least be able to represent these, you know, these women and, you know, parents. And so I did my own research in terms of trying to educate myself to kind of trace things back to the beginning, you know, in terms of how the gangs were, because a lot of this is gang related.
Yes, I saw that.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah. And then you go back to, you know, the civil war that was going on in El Salvador and how that, you know, then, you know, U.S. interference and then everything that created, and, you know, so it goes back, you know, you've got to really go back to try to find like, how did this all kind of come about? So I did do that research, and you know, I just felt that I was following the news very closely, you know, how many families are being separated now? What's this politician doing? I was there anyway, so it wasn't like I had to do any new research because I was already doing it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Ken?
ICE officer Carlos Litvak, played by Adam Lindo, is introduced in season 7 and is a sadistic officer who does not care about women if they are deported or separated from their families. Do you think there is US immigration and customs enforcement officers similar to him? And also, what was it like working with Adam Lindo?
Well, you know, Adam is the opposite of that, you know. He's very, very, very sweet man, very, very sweet. So it was almost like, you know, and I feel like he would talk to me, you know, and I'm like, this guy is so sweet. And, you know, we actually started, you know, forming like a friendship and stuff. And there was one day where he just knew that I couldn't talk to him. It was so sweet that he was gonna like, I wasn't gonna be able to like really, but he was very respectful on the days that I just couldn't really, you know, talk to him. But so working with him was great. And unfortunately, I do think that I think that in positions of power like that, unfortunately, I think it attracts people who had their power taken away from a very young age, at a very young age, and are still stuck in that power that you want to have as a child. That I have a say in whether or not I get treated well. I have a say in whether or not I get my basic needs met, you know. So I think that positions of power like and unfortunately law enforcement in general can attract, not everyone, but it can attract people who, like I said, they want to get power that they didn't have at one critical time in their lives. And it's very unfortunate.
It is, definitely.
Yeah. And deadly. It ends up being deadly.
It is. Are we okay for time? Can we still go on a little bit more?
We're good, man. I'm like digging this.
Just double checking. Now, the music on Orange is the New Black is amazing. And in particular, there's one scene in episode 3 that you're in at the end. There's a song called Bomba Stereo is playing while the camera is panning down on you all. And you in particular, you're lying on top of the top bunk bed. And you can see the emotion on your face, and the lyrics are written in 1,000 pieces. I entered I hope I get this right, Ken. I've not heard this word.
Sidereal.
And I'm writing those steps that I took. I can imagine, and it comes to me. So these are the lyrics of the song, and it's playing in Spanish. So I translated the lyrics.
Okay.
I just thought that moment, that ending scene with, where the camera was.
Is it on me? Really? Are you sure it's on me?
Yeah, it's on all of you on the top.
On all of you.
Yeah,
on all of us.
The scent is on you as well. And
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah, the emotion that was on your face, and I'll talk about that shortly on a few other scenes. But yeah, where did it come from? I mean, it was just, I know you probably don't remember exactly at the time.
I don't. I feel terrible. I don't remember that moment. That's why I'm like, are you sure it was me? Because I don't. But if you're sure, I'll take your word for it.
Because I think the writers and the producers really got it right with these storylines. I mean, do you think that as well?
I do, unfortunately. And do you guys know Diane Guerrero's story?
I don't think I've heard that. No.
Yeah, she was on the, she was on the show several seasons, but it's not my story to tell, so I really shouldn't go into it. But I mean, this is online and sort of public knowledge now that she actually went through this in real life.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh. Her parents. So she is, I mean, once I learned her story, I mean, she her last name is Guerrero, which means warrior, and she is the epitome of that. So she lived it. She actually lived it.
Oh wow! I hadn't read it. No.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. But where does it? You asked where does it come from, and I think you try to take things from your life that sort of parallel this. It may not be the same. It may not be the same situation, but you try to take things that parallel the same human response in you, things from your own life. That's how I work. I take things from my own life.
Yep.
Yeah.
You worked with some amazing cast members on this show. Are there any memories you can share with us about some of the cast and any behind the scenes stories?
Oh gosh.
Now you're on the spot. No.
I am.
Oh, good. No, don't stress.
No. Oh gosh. I'll tell you this. What was very fun was I mean, I loved working with everyone that I worked with on there. I worked mostly with Laura Gomez, who she's so incredibly good that it's you just look in her eyes and you are in the scene because she's that good. She's so real, it's as if everything is really truly happening. So I always just loved working with her. But I think that one thing that really stands out that people may not know happened is we had rehearsals with my two little sons. Oh, yeah. So we went with the director of that episode 11 in I think it's In God We Trust.
God Bless America.
God Bless America. Oh, geez.
Which I want to talk about in a moment.
Okay. So, thank you. God Bless America. So, and then that's where you see, Carla's children. And so we went with the director of that, and Diego, and his wife, who's one of the producers who I mentioned earlier, Carolina Pais. And so we went to the Museum of Moving Images with the two little boys and with them. And we just it was sort of like a bonding time to try to, so that the kids would feel comfortable with me, and we could kind of start to establish some kind of bond. And then after we went to the museum, it was right across the street from the studios where it's shot. And then we went to, we went back to the studios and we played these games like with all of them. And it was a really wonderful day to just kind of get to bond with my TV kids. And they were just great. And we went to eat with them, and I kind of got to know them and sit with them. And that's sort of like a behind the scenes memory, I'd say. Yeah, great one.
You could see that bond, which we'll talk about in a moment.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
Definitely. Episode 5, which was called Minority Report. So this is the courtroom scene where you're handcuffed and shackled, and the judge, Timothy Wright, played by Nick Sullivan, is, you know, asking you questions, and all you said is, all I want to know is where my kids are, which was a really emotional scene. But what was it like sitting there? Like, were you really shackled and handcuffed?
We really were shackled. And that day, and then the next courtroom day, especially that day, Joe, maybe because it was the first courtroom, I felt like I was gonna, I mean, this sounds very dramatic, but I felt like I was gonna have some kind of heart attack or something, like, because I could feel the stress of her and what she's going through, and the history, and the fact that it was actually happening in our country, and you know, and just the way it was set up, it actually was a real courtroom. We sat in it, we saw it in a yeah, that one was. The second was a set, but the first one, we went out to Westchester, and we were in a real courtroom.
Wow.
And I just remember thinking to myself, this is so stressful, because I just got so into it. I was just like, oh God, I might get deported. Like, it was just very stressful.
Because you weren't just handcuffed. I mean, you had shackles on. It was,
yeah, we were.
Like, whoa.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then they come with the key, and they unshackle you to go for lunch or whatever. But yeah, if you have to go to the restroom, like, well, take your shackles off. Like, yeah.
Wow.
But it helps. It helps, you know, it helps you really believe it. Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh God. Yeah. Very. Yeah. And I think that one of the biggest things was the fact that it was really happening to women, you know, in the US. It was stressful. Yeah.
I actually have a fact on that. I think it was a couple of years ago, they said the statistics were more than 200,000 children under the age of 18 have traveled to the US across the southwest border to you know, get away from the life that they were living. It's just, tragic.
Yeah. And that's the thing that people need to understand is, you know, they're fleeing from something horrific. It's not like, you know, it's just like, oh yeah, you know, the US, yeah, sure, it might be kind of fun. No, this is life or death, you know, and people, a lot of people don't stop and put themselves in the shoes of, you know, the people who are coming here illegally. They don't, you know, they just see it as very black or white.
Yeah. I agree with that. And it was actually, you know, in 2019, when I was watching the show, when you were on it, it was actually your storyline that made me sort of look into it more, just to research it more and get to know more about it. Because I just thought it was just like, whoa, I didn't know this was such a massive, I mean, obviously you hear it in the news, but
yeah.
It's very sad.
Episode 11, God Bless America. This episode shows the background of your character before you go to jail. This is one thing about Orange is the New Black, is they show the background of the character's life prior to going to jail. We see your kids, and we also see you back in the courtroom, and you're trying to get your kids back, and the judge says they will probably be better off with the family they have been adopted out to. Another powerful scene. Did you think it was important to show the background?
Yeah, sure, because you got to see her in her work clothes, you know, she's coming from work, and you got to see her together, comforting her children. I think it was very important, because otherwise you don't care as much, because you haven't seen her bond with her children, and then you're more removed from it. Yeah. But I think that when you show the positive side of something that has gone, you know, awry, or like in a big way, then it makes the negative all that more heartbreaking when you show the positive aspect of what that was like. So yes.
Yeah. That's one thing I loved about the show, is they always showed the background to every main character, as you saw their life prior to jail, you know.
I love those episodes. Yeah. Because it really made you understand them more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once I was done filming, then I went back and I watched everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One question I do have to ask you is, and a lot of people have different opinions about this show. Is it a comedy? Is it a drama? Is it a dark comedy? You know, and it got very dark towards the last season, especially the one you were in. What would you call it?
I would say that it's a I don't know, for me personally, it's a very funny drama for me. I see it more as a drama because of the subjects that it's tackling.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have, you know, that 70s show or Friends tackling these subjects, you know what I mean? So for me, it's a funny drama.
Yeah.
You know, where all parts, there's a lot that's not funny. Yeah.
Yeah, and it tackles so many issues, that show. It really did.
Yeah.
There's a scene I really want to talk to you about, which actually brought tears to my eye, and I will admit that. You're in the kitchen and the inmates have smuggled a phone in. Now, this scene is heartbreaking. Now, your on-screen kids are with their adopted parents, and you're able to get their number and give them a call, and you're talking to your kids on the phone. Yeah. What was it like shooting that scene? It was hard to watch.
I think the day before I went to where the kids were shooting the other side of that. So we shot the kids doing the other side of it before, and it's so beautifully written that so we did that the day before, and I was giving them their lines. So I was talking, but I wasn't going full out because I was like, I got to save this for when I'm on camera tomorrow, you know, but I was giving them enough that they had something to, and it was hard to not get emotional as I was giving them the lines because it's so beautifully written. And that was written by Karina Pais, who I mentioned earlier, who she's a producer on the show, but she wrote that episode. And so, you know, so then I knew I had to do it the next day, and we had other scenes to shoot in the morning, you know, and I was just like, I mean, you know, I was there present for the scenes, but I was like, I want to just get this done so I could just do that. And we shot it late at night. I think it was around 8:30 p.m. where it was like, we'd been there all day shooting. And then it was finally time for me to do this phone call. And it was, you know, I knew how important it was. And I was just, that was my goal for the day. Like, I just wanted do this scene justice because it's so important, because I think this is what will make people go, oh, this is
and it did. I mean, it just like I mean, just talking about it now is
yeah, I know,
it's upsetting, and because you know it is going on, but the way you did it, I mean, it was beautiful. I mean, it was
thank you.
You know, and you could see the inmates. I'm sure they were probably real tears with the inmates there as well. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, because I did it a few times when they were on them, just on them, you know what I mean? And I was doing it. And then it was like, I think the last thing was on me, you know, so I got, you know, you have to give enough, but not give it all the way until it's on me. And then that's how we did it. Yeah.
Still giving the kids hope, you know, she was still giving the kids, you know, we will see each other, you know, we will. But
you have to, for the kids, you have to. And she was, I think she was trying to believe it with all her heart.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now, we don't want to give away any spoilers about your last episode on Orange is the New Black, but can we ask your thoughts on Carla's ending?
Without giving away too much.
Without giving away too much.
I know it's hard,
but I feel like I would give it away if I gave my thoughts. But I would hope, my hope is that, you know, everything works out. That's my hope. They make it a little tough to believe that would happen. To not to give too much away. But that would be my hope. But I think that, I think it's just better for everyone to decide what they think happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I do good? Is that okay?
Yes, that's a hard one. I just don't want to spoil it for everyone that hasn't
Right.
seen it yet.
Yeah.
So do you think the problem's they're fixing it? Things are getting better or worse?
Oh, it's much better. It's much better. We are, and this is going to be a political statement, but it's true.
Yep.
We're under a new administration here, and that those policies are not in effect anymore.
Yeah.
The zero tolerance policies that were in effect before. So things are definitely getting better. And, one of the priorities of our current president, it was to unite as many families as possible, as quickly as possible. And I think a lot of that has happened. In terms of the numbers that may be still separated, I don't have those numbers, but it's much, much, much less than it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, things are definitely better.
But it really resonated what you said before about, so many people do think that people just go in there because they want to. They're just, oh yeah, I'll go and live in the USA. And it's so not true. There's people coming from so many different backgrounds and things that have gone wrong in their life and things that are happening that they are fleeing. I mean, not just from, all sorts of countries. It's
yeah,
awful. So I really love what you said there. It's so true.
You have to take a moment to put yourself in the other person's position for real, and not just from the comfort of your own life,
Yeah. And I mean, that's like here in Australia, we live in an amazing country, and, people try to get in here as well. And it's like, just let them in, they're here for a reason,
Yeah.
They're not here just because yeah.
I mean, you don't leave, home is very important to everyone, whether you want to admit it or not. But if something goes wrong in that home, you want to get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. No, and no, thank you about sharing your experience on the Orange is the New Black. I know it's more than just a role. It was also, you giving the character justice and doing the right thing by the character, and you did it brilliantly. And
thank you so much. It was so important, and it was important to me personally, because I felt, because I think to myself, I was so lucky. My family and I, we were all so lucky because we came here during a time when it was just easier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But for the grace of God go I, you know what I mean? And so you have to look at it that way. And you can't, and it's also so selfish to me when people look at it as like, well, I'm here, now we can close the door. It's like, yeah, how'd you get here? How'd your parents get here? How'd your grandparents get here? Everyone had that same journey of getting there. And it's like, oh, now you want to close the door because now you're here. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's selfish.
Definitely. No, and thank you for that. Now, I would have loved to have talked more about the Blacklist, because you were also in the Blacklist with Jamesspader. Just before we wrap up, what was it like working with James in the Blacklist?
Oh, he's so good, and he just makes you better, and he makes you want to be better, And so that's, I think the biggest thing that I'll take away, just sort of just that, his whole thing is just being very, very real, very simple, very real. And, that's one thing that, I tend to go a little bigger, and you have to know what kind of actor you are. Some actors underplay. I tend to overplay a little bit. So that sort of really, came up for me, working on the Blacklist. And so I think he really helped me with that. And I think it was wonderful. And in a way, he was almost like another teacher for me, which is not his job, but just being around him, you just pick it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been in so many amazing shows, but one I really loved him in was Boston Legal with William Shatner. I mean, that was just
Never saw it.
Never. Oh, great show. Yeah.
Oh, it's so boring with all these things I haven't seen. Yeah.
He was really brilliant in that, and I have seen that is one show I have seen.
Okay. I've seen clips. I've seen clips of it, and he really was, yeah, brilliant in that. He's always brilliant.
Did you have to audition for the Blacklist, or was that a part that you just got?
No, I had to audition for it. And it was a self-tape, and it was due the next day, so we just had to put it down, and I had to, there's a chant in the first episode of the season where you meet my character and my sister's character, played by wonderful actress Diani Rodriguez. So we're new on the show when you meet us, and anyway, so I'm chanting in a Guatemalan indigenous language, and so I had to do that for the audition, but I don't know that language, so I had to make up a chant in Spanish. So I had to first write out, I'm like, what am I gonna have to write out the chant, and then learn it, you know what I mean? And then I was able to put it on tape, and you know what I mean? And so, yeah, it worked out.
Do you enjoy the audition process? Do you look forward to an audition, or do you get really? Well,
now it's like self-tapes, so it's very different. So do you mean auditions or self-tapes now?
Well, the auditions, going back to the auditions, like,
going back to the auditions. Sometimes I felt that I would need, that I actually liked when there were a lot of people at the auditions, like watching me, because it made everything more real and more important, and it actually made it easier for me to get in touch with, because it felt more public, and it felt more of like I'm really putting this out there, you know what I mean? So I did enjoy that, and I would prefer more people in the room than you just go in there and there's just one producer there, and then you're like, all right, where's the crowd, man? Yeah. What I don't enjoy is I don't enjoy seeing everyone else who's there for the same role.
Oh, of course.
That sucks. That's so, because some of these people you're friends with, you know what I mean, or you know them, you know what I mean, and you don't want to feel like you're competing with them. It's just, it puts a whole other, energy on it, and so these are people that I would see it socially, or go to see the same plays or whatever, and and then it's like, oh, then you're auditioning together, or people that you already worked with, and then you're auditioning for the same. And it just, so that part I do not miss at all.
Come to the last question. Do you have an actor that you have always wanted to work with, or a favorite actor?
Well, there's so many that I love. I've said Kate Winslet before in an interview, but it's true. She's so incredible. I think there's just so many. Everyone says Meryl Streep because it's Meryl Streep, and of course, that might be too intimidating, though. I just think I would just I can't do it. Oh gosh, I'd love to work with Ethan Hawke. Oh gosh, it's such a, Daniel Day-Lewis, but he's not acting anymore. It's Pacino, my God.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah, I know. I'm really reaching for masters right now. So I said, Kate Winslet, Meryl Streep, so many, my God, Charlize Theron, I think she's fantastic. So many, so many. Yeah.
Is there anything you can share with the fans that you're currently working on at the moment, or before we leave?
Well, and there's one project that I will be doing one episode of. It's a limited series. It's called Retreat, and so I think it's a 5-part, 6-part series. So I'll be doing one episode of that,
yeah.
So
awesome.
But I'll keep everyone posted on mine.
Yes, please.
On my social media. Yeah.
I'm just going to quickly wrap up. If you can just bear with me. That was episode 6 of Talking Prisoner Presents with our first international guest. Thank you for watching. If you could please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and share our videos where you can. Please also like our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. And this episode of Talking Prisoner Presents is also available across all the podcast platforms, including Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, and the rest of them, and also on the talkingprisoner.com website. That is a wrap.